All the rolling go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?
Hello, and welcome to Where Am I to Go podcast. Today we're in Patagonia, Arizona, not the Patagonia down in South America. This is a super cool place. We're at the Patagonia Museum, which has a lot of local history. We're here with Murphy Music is his name. He's the curator of the museum here. And we are going to talk a little bit about Patagonia and about what they've got here in the museum. Lots of interesting stuff. The first thing I'd like to say is Patagonia is about, 50 miles south of Tucson?
Yes.
And when you're in Tucson, you see all the saguaro cactuses and you see all of the country like what you see or think of Arizona as being. But as you drop out of Tucson, coming south down toward Nogales, New Mexico, or Nogales, Arizona, excuse me, the country becomes completely different. You have trees, you have tall grass, you've got mountains with trees. It's just absolutely gorgeous down here. And it's not anything like what you'd think would be south of Tucson unless you've been here. This is absolutely beautiful country, Murphy, and I'm excited to learn about a lot of your history because it seems like there's a lot here.
So, of course, the environment depends on elevation. So we're several thousand feet higher than Tucson.
Okay.
And Tucson is higher than Phoenix, so you think of Phoenix as being real hot, and then Tucson, up here it's really different. The whole elevations. And
your elevation's at what?
A little over 4,000, and then around us is a lot higher than that, the mountains around here.
Okay, and we've been here, we're here at the first part of February. The nights have been pretty chilly. We've been down in the 20s.
Typical.
And the highs are like 65.
Yeah.
What are your summers like?
Very pleasant, easy to deal with. Hundreds every day probably in that area, but
when you say hundreds, are you talking like hundreds and tens or just?
No, oh gosh, nothing like that. Yeah, we'll be in the 90s and get up to 100.
So it's a whole lot different than having to deal with the heat in Phoenix and.
Oh yeah, once again, elevation.
Right.
From Tucson, you can drive up to Mount Lemmon.
Right.
And go all the way from way in Mexico, the Sonoran Desert habitat, through all these bioregions up to British Columbia. Douglas fir trees,
You got a ski resort up there, don't they?
Yeah, when there's snow.
When there's snow, which is just amazing to me because you don't think of that in southern Arizona. And yet in Tucson, and we took that drive last year, and it's only 10, 15 miles up to the top of Mount Lemmon on a real curvy, windy road.
Goes forever, it seems like.
Yeah, the road's really windy, but the elevation increases so fast that you're looking out over the Tucson Valley as you're going up, and you're going through all these different ecosystems or whatever you want to call them, and it's just so interesting taking that ride. So what got Patagonia on the map? What started this town?
The natives have been here forever. This has been a very livable country because of the environment here. There's water.
Right.
This is along the Santa Creek.
Now, do you get a lot of rain here?
About 15 inches a year.
Well, that's really not bad compared to some places.
We're not a dry desert, but it's not bad. It's not a whole wet time, no.
Right.
But the evaporation is less, and we're up in the mountains. They're called around here sky islands. Have you ever heard that term?
Yes.
Okay, where all these volcanic mountains came up, or uplifted mountains also, but they're so much higher than the land around them.
Okay, so you're Sky Island then.
Who are those people? So it's really livable along the water. Santa Cruz, the San Pedro, the Gila, Santa Creek is really important through the area also to get between the mountains, and so people have lived here for a long time. And the Apaches came several hundred years ago now, and they were pretty rough on everybody. So that changed the whole life situation. But let's get to the U.S.
Okay.
1854, the Gadsden Purchase from Mexico.
Okay.
Put this area into the United States. And so prior to that, it had been Spanish for several hundred years and Mexican for 20 or 30 years.
Okay.
And then the Mexican-American War just whooped on the Mexicans, and they got all the land all the way down to Treaty of 1849, all the way down to the Gila River, compared to like Oregon or way west,
right,
east over to Kansas. Huge, huge land.
And so then white settlers started moving in,
that was right away. Well, right, 1849. So that was the treaty was settled. The war, and when the gold was found in California in 1849.
Right.
And so just people flocked west. Huge,
okay,
thousands, any way they could. And a lot of them came up through Mexico or around the Horn. It was just a huge rush to get to California. And so as people would pass through this area on their way to get gold, they would look around, and the mining activity that Spain and the native Indians had done was evident to prospectors. And so they started finding their own different mineral deposits throughout the area.
And this area has quite a bit of mining in it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, a tremendous amount of mining has happened through the years. But
just driving around through here, there's some massive mines, that you see just going up into the forest areas and stuff.
Oh boy, there's some real active mines. Yeah,
right.
Near Tucson there.
Well, just out east of here, we were going through Harshaw, yeah. Yeah, and there's a great big mine up there. And
South 32 is a new outfit.
And what kind of mine is that?
Well, it's going to be, the mine's all closed because of the water level of the mountains.
Oh.
But let's talk about the museum, maybe.
Let's talk about,
yeah.
I'm trying to get a little bit of the history of the area. But yeah, so this museum is in the old elementary school.
Beautiful old building.
It is.
1914 it was built. And really, what was it, Spanish, Roman style or something? Beautiful.
It kind of looks like an old mission building of some sort.
Incredible building, and obviously the nicest building in the town itself.
He's going to ring the school bell here for us. Let's go.
You can click that if you want.
Okay, let's hear the bell. They've got the old bell still working.
The bell.
And if you come to the museum, we were just here. The kids were ringing the bell a little bit ago. And it's a real neat sounding bell. So that would get all the kids coming to school.
So they'd come in and ring the bell and raise the flag and have an assembly every day. Pledge of Allegiance, raise the flag. And get going in this old building here. Sometimes there would be hundreds of kids.
Were the schools, there were that many kids in the school, huh?
Look at this. And I don't know the year of this photo, but
well, it says
I don't think there were any outlying buildings. That's the thing at that time.
Okay.
How did they fit all that? What'd they do?
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of outbuildings, but the original building was built in 1914, and it was continuously operated through 2014.
Oh, really? So
yeah,
it just closed down 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, yeah, less than.
Wow. And Patagonia's population, has it been boom bust, or has it been pretty consistent? Because you guys have what, probably 500 people here?
Yeah, maybe 800.
Maybe 800.
Yeah.
It's not a real big town.
No.
But the population's been kind of consistent, or has there been booms with different projects going on, or?
Sure, there was always, it was established in 1896.
Okay.
Right, the guy laid out the town.
Okay.
He started selling lots, and little by little, he was able to sell enough lots, and the train had already gone through this valley here. And so he laid out the town parallel to the existing railroad track.
Okay, now there are no railroad tracks visible now, right?
That's the town park.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and let me explain this a little bit. The town of Patagonia has the highway that goes through it, and then just off probably 100 yards, there's the main street. So it's like two parallel streets that kind of go through town. And the center part is all a great big park.
That was the railroad line.
Okay.
So the ore dumps or the cattle yards, it used to go through all the way to Nogales and then down into Mexico to Guaymas.
Okay.
But the lower reaches in the 30s, they kept getting washed out.
Oh.
And so another railroad did come in finally from Tucson to Nogales.
Okay.
So they abandoned the lower reaches.
And is the track still usable now for the new one?
Pulled them out. Everything's gone.
Everything's
track,
gone. Okay.
And they put in a turntable.
Oh, okay.
So
a roundhouse?
They would come in and turn the engines around and shoot them back out. As
okay.
So they wouldn't go through anymore.
So this was kind of a rail hub at one point in time.
For this area, it was the main one.
Okay.
There were other ones prior to Patagonia. There was Crittenden, Sonoyta, Elgin.
Okay.
So Patagonia had the flatland down in the mining area.
Okay.
So the ore came here, and also it serviced the cattle industry.
Okay, so you have...
And it had the railroad employee sort of base also. So there was three legs to the income, really.
Okay.
Mining, agriculture, which was ranching.
Right.
And the railroad itself employed people.
Okay.
And supported. Everything came by... Rails was everything in
right.
the old days.
Oh, yeah,
roads, really.
Yeah. If your town was really going to be a town, it had to have a rail station.
Had to have a railroad.
Yeah.
That was the only way you could get things moved around.
Wow. Okay. And so your museum's kind of divided into 4 separate rooms, which were the school rooms, or at least that's what I've seen, kind of looking at it. And as we step into the first room here,
which is the Centennial Room.
The Centennial Room. Okay, tell me about what we got here.
Here we have a beautiful, beautiful room with these 14-foot ceilings and 9-foot windows. There was no electricity, so all the natural light was absolutely essential to run things here.
Okay.
Make it work during the day.
And what did they use for heat in here? Because in the mornings it was cold.
Oh, they had coal burning stoves and stuff. Yeah.
Little pot bellies in the center, or did they have kind of a central?
Initially.
Okay.
I can see where the chimneys were.
Okay. And above the doors, you've got the windows that open up to allow cooling and heating and
move it around. So it was 100 years in Patagonia, 1898 to 1998, and that was kind of the basis for the museum group too. That the interest was generated for the Centennial to form a group to do oral histories and collect the photographs. And they did a wonderful job of taking photos and enhancing them and make them work and creating this super display. Wonderful.
Okay, and you've got stories from a lot of your townspeople and the old timers.
Yeah, they're really fun to read too. And most of these people are passed away now. I knew most of them.
yeah, most of them look pretty elderly when you got the picture of them, given their.
And that was a long time.
And that was 20 some years ago.
So that was why it was pretty important to do the history when they did.
Yes.
They did it. There's an ongoing project, but this was the big effort that they did.
Okay.
So that's why it's the Centennial Room particularly.
And then you've got a little military display here.
Well, the border area in the 20s and stuff was a big deal. I mean, Nogales had thousands of troops in it and stuff. The whole Revolutionary Wars and stuff going on in Mexico created a real problem on the border for the U.S. And then World War II World War I was up, you know, so there were camps everywhere. They would march from Fort Huachuca through town to go down to Nogales, and here they are going through town to get to their next post.
So did they have an actual fort in Patagonia, or?
No, not in this town.
Okay.
The first fort in the Arizona area was just up the street here, up the highway at Fort Buchanan.
Okay.
And
there's a historical marker there, right?
Yeah, and the marker particularly talks about Camp Crittenden.
Right.
Yeah, because that was after. So here we are, 1854, the Gadsden Purchase brought this land into the U.S.
Okay.
Prior to that, people had been pouring through it to go to California already.
Right.
So actually, yeah, there was all this trouble with Texas and Mexico and people just pouring through. The Gadsden Purchase was 5-6 years after the initial end of the Mexican-American War. It was 1854 was the Gadsden Purchase, and 49 was the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo.
So was this just kind of a no man's land?
Oh, it was just horrible. It was amazing. Outlaws. It was outlaws, and just wild. The Arizona Strip. It was just nobody was here. So the feds actually came in 3 years later. There wasn't any military or anything. So the first fort ever in this part of the U.S. was right up the street here at Buchanan. That was 57, I think. And they did a bad, anyway, they were hanging out. This was all pre-Civil War.
Right.
And very pre. I mean, things were cooking. Everything was jumping back east. Kansas was burning, and all these people. The whole north-south issue was extremely coming to the head. And so all these troops were out here, and they had to deal with the Indians.
Okay.
And one of the people right down the street here, Johnny Ward, has his son kidnapped by some Indians.
Okay.
They didn't know who. So he went up to Buchanan. This was in '61, and went up there, and Lieutenant Baskin was put in charge of going to find this boy and see what they could do. So he took off with troops, and of all people he ran into, it was Cochise, who was one of the major leaders of the Apaches at the time.
Okay.
And they had no idea about Indians. There was no interpreters. There was just nothing going. They had no knowledge of people, no customs or anything. So he arrested them. And
I'll bet they were happy about that.
Oh, Cochise and his family, and Cochise cut his way out of the tent and went running, and they shot at him and stuff. And they killed 2 of his family members. And so he killed a few people, and they killed, and that was the start of 18 years of the Indian Wars.
Wow.
Brutal. I mean, the Apaches had been around beating up people, but that's what they did.
Right. I've always heard about
that. They didn't want to wipe people out because then they couldn't get their free lunch. The Mexicans provided the foods, the United States, the gringos provided the guns and horses.
Right.
So he didn't want to kill them all. Well, he did want to kill them all at that point.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And 1861, the Civil War started, coincidentally with Baskin.
Right.
So the Indians were pissed, absolutely livid. And they closed the fort and left. All the troops left.
Really?
Yeah, the Civil War.
And so they just let it be wild
Indians
again.
won. Yeah, the Indians won as far as they knew. What a story that is. So
So there's not a lot of military presence here, but the first military presence and some of that what was here.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
But there wasn't an actual established fort after.
That's when Crittenden, because they all left to go back east to fight the war. All the Union, most of the people, there was Arizona Rangers had been established at that time,
Okay.
kind of running around. But they were all Southerners, so they all left to go fight with the South. Yeah, it was a hard time for our country, I tell you.
Oh, yeah.
So a few years later, that's when Crittenden was reestablished. The war was still going on and stuff.
Okay.
But they had to have military presence. And that just started getting bigger and bigger, more so in this country, especially after the war. They had a lot of surplus soldiers and stuff.
Right. Well, so was there still conflicts with the Mexicans?
Yeah,
over the I mean, being only what, you're 20 miles from the border?
Yeah.
And was there
Not too much locally, but the border itself, right, had to
Right.
be. There were like 14 different camps established from Texas to California, different military groups and stuff.
Okay.
The military history of the border, very interesting.
I might have to.
View,
Yeah.
bomb, just pretty crazy. Columbus, Mexico is where Pancho, that was the only place in the U.S. that's ever been invaded.
Okay.
He came crushing in there with 300 guys thinking there were only 50. He lost.
Right. Okay, so we're working our way on around. You've got a display here from George Proctor that has some cowbells and some different house type memorabilia.
Well, his collection is extensive. This is just a little bit.
Just
Proctor, there's a whole storehouse of his stuff out here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, geez.
You got a spinning wheel.
Yeah, so these old guys are around forever. His book was worth reading.
Okay, I'm looking at a tin that's probably 1 inch tall and 3 inches wide and 8 inches long that has 2 caps on it that screw on. Almost looks like it could be a canteen or something, but what was that?
Gosh, there's so much stuff here. And why is it? And it's associated with Bob Lennon, who was an engineer. I was thinking that what I would see was an inkwell of some sort here for drawing and things.
But it doesn't have any other markings on it. What an interesting piece.
That's strange. So
Yeah.
There's,
I thought maybe it was some sort of a flask, but it doesn't look like, I don't know.
Terrible.
It's interesting.
So Lennon was an engineer that came here in the 40s, and his family is still local. And he did a lot of the survey for the mining in the area, and civil surveying for the housing and stuff also.
Okay. You got a small bottle collection and another collection of some household things like a child's sewing machine and some more tins.
God,
A little record player that took the old 78s.
everything's so well displayed.
It is.
I'm not part of I just come in and volunteer as a docent, but the people that actually put this together have done a really good job, I think. It's a pleasure to come up here.
Yeah, you can look at all kinds of things and some old Sears Roebuck catalogs
A
and
little storefront setup.
yeah, just really, really nice displays. And then we come across the hallway and we come into a schoolroom, is the way I would describe this. You've got several desks. You've got maps from the old school that has the United States as it appeared in 1829 with, the Missouri Territory and Oregon Territory, Mexico coming way on up. Kind of
What a wonderful school.
natural display with skulls and
It's a conglomeration, that's for sure, but it's not crowded. You don't feel uncomfortable.
no.
I love walking around here, seeing these odds and ends of stuff.
A nice mineral display. What was this thing over here? You've got a great big press that comes down into a little 1.5 inch wide. It almost looks like a metal cutting tool of some sort.
Rock crusher, huh?
It was a rock crusher.
Sample.
Okay.
Yeah, look at that pressure
For the assay
you could get
office?
with these threads. Huh?
Yeah.
No rock could stand that little point like that.
It's got a wheel on it that's probably 2 foot round at the top, all steel. And yeah, it looks like it would crush some rocks. And I'm sure they were crushing the rocks to determine the mineral content and some of that with the assay
how
office.
else do you know what you got until you break them open?
Right. And they've got a real nice mineral display here. and some other things. Let's head on back to one of the other rooms here in the back. This here has a lot of the early history of Patagonia,
I don't
right?
know what they call this one. Oh, the journey story. Now, this was, once again, here's a display that was already been created through the public library here prior to the museum opening.
Okay.
And so it behooved it to move it up to here. And
Right.
it's a history of the area from the very early Indian natives on through, and then talking about the movies that were done here.
You've had several movies done here in Patagonia?
Dozens of movies.
And you've got a picture of John Wayne here?
Yeah. Piper here with his cow. Yeah.
Okay.
Good old Ted.
Cool. So what movies were made here, do you know?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Oh, it's so beautiful. It was so rural and so actively ranch land that they were able to do movies really easily. They didn't have a whole bunch of noise or cars or other pollution.
Oh, wow. You've got a long list of movies. From 1946, Duel in the Sun, Red River, The Furies, Winchester 73, War Arrow, Broken Lance, Oklahoma.
Yes, oh yeah, that was a big production on that.
Backlash, The Proud Ones, Gunfight at the OK Corral. We're going to skip down quite a bit here. Like in 1970, we had Rio Lobo. 70 was Monty Walsh. 70, The Cowboys. 71, Wild Rovers. 72, Ulzana's Raid. And 72, Night of Lupus. 74, Red Badge of Courage. And 74, The Treasure of Teopa. And then, you still got more.
Television.
Okay. Westerns, Rawhide, Little House on the Prairie. Little House on the Prairie was filmed here, huh?
Yeah, some of it.
Wow. The Young Riders, Father Murphy.
It's so beautiful here, I tell you. And this is a continuation.
Yeah, and then because it stopped at 74, and now all of a sudden I'm seeing 1999 with South of Heaven, West of Hell, Buffalo Soldiers, Quick and the Dead, Tombstone, Gunsmoke 3, Young Guns.
Yeah, this is so beautiful here. As you said, it's such a unique. We were talking about Sky Islands and stuff.
Yeah.
You didn't record that.
Yeah, well, that was on here.
Was it?
Yeah, we got the Sky Islands.
So these women were really, this is the work and collection of the cowbells, the women.
Your daughter's at the first page.
Well, I had to turn a few pages.
But as we walk through here, you've got an old set of shaps that...
they collected a lot of their farm, obviously it was just their daily work stuff, really.
Right, yeah, the cowboy influence. You've got a chuck wagon box here that's all set up with the Dutch ovens and all the utensils that would have been in the chuck box on the back of a wagon, the cook wagon that was out on the range. You've got old cowboy hats, pretty good collection of well-worn cowboy hats. Some saddles that look like they'd had a mile or two put in them.
It's fun to go see all their collection and their photos.
Now, were you raised here?
No, I came here in 77.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a military family. Yeah.
And you said your wife taught in this school?
40 years. I met my wife here in town, yeah.
She wasn't your teacher, was she?
Yes. Oh, my teacher? Oh,
you probably learned a lot from her.
I met my wife.
Okay, so we're back into this room. We just crossed over into another room.
Okay, let's go.
And you were talking a little bit about this tree stump over here.
Oh, the jail tree. That's how they would lock people up in the middle. It was right there in the middle of town. And you'd be arrested by whoever. I don't know what authorities there were at different times. There used to be 2 of them in town.
Okay.
And
they used to chain the drunks to it, it says.
Yeah.
One was behind the Methodist church. I'm sure he was repenting while he was chained.
But how humiliating.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine, whatever you're doing, your metabolism out there in the middle of the road? Oh, my gosh. And so then it went to a jail cave. That was a big step up in 38.
Okay, now the jail tree, let me describe this here. It's a tree trunk. And they've got a piece of it here that has a chain wrapped around it with a leg iron attached, so you are stuck to a tree with only about 2 foot of chain,
Yeah,
and you're not going to go anywhere.
no.
You're
So it says here that, so people would come and hang out with them. They would have beer with them, and just the party would continue. Just one of them would be
tied up. Wow, that's pretty interesting.
So the church groups were very important to our community. The Seventh-day Adventists were a big group, and the Methodists. So they had they worked together on the community church.
Oh, really?
They built that big church down in town. I don't know if you've seen that yet.
Yeah, I have seen that.
Isn't that pretty?
It's
several concrete. Look at that.
Wow, and several churches met in the same building.
Just two, yeah.
Well, I guess the Seventh-day Adventists used it on Saturday, and the Methodists used it on Sunday.
Yeah, pretty good.
That works out well for both of them.
The Catholics had their own. And then they split, and for whatever reason, they had the Seventh-day Adventists had their own church separate from this structure. And it was, oh God, I'd like to show you a picture. Yeah, it was just a little nothing. Mining. Yeah, mining was a big deal here. And they're coming back now, that's for sure. Mines were closed when they ran into the water level down there in the mountain.
Okay.
And so these whole new mining ventures now, they plan to de-water the mountain.
So they're going to pump everything out.
6 million gallons a day.
Are they putting it into any place to irrigate or
no, just running in the creek here.
Really?
Oh, yeah, we'll see.
Huh.
I don't want to get too, because that's not what I should be talking about.
Okay.
That's such a bad idea. God, water's life.
Yes, it is.
You start dorking around.
Well, Murphy, I really appreciate you showing us around your museum and talking to us about the history of Patagonia. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I know that you're close to closing time. So the way I finish the podcast out is I say that the world is full of wonder. People need to get out and explore. There's so much to see in all of the country, and especially in this country. It is so cool. Yeah. And everybody have a wonder-filled day.
All the roll and go, where am I to go? Meet Johnny, where am I to go? For I'm a young and a sailor lad, and where am I to go?